What's up everyone, OJ here, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be answering two pressing questions that I get all the time when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles on this channel, and that is one, which Xenoblade Chronicles game should I play first, and two, which is the best Xenoblade Chronicles game. Now with Pyra and Mythra being added into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, an influx of new fans have been flooding in to the Xenoblade channels and been flooding in and been asking questions about who these characters are, so I just felt that it was a good time to actually talk about this. But before we get into anything, please make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe if you're someone new, and check out our Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition giveaway that's going down by Tuesday. I'll have a link for you guys in the description below. Now let's go ahead and start off with which Xenoblade Chronicles game that you should play first. Before we kind of get into that, we have to break down which games are out there and what systems you can play them on, because the availability of the game is going to be an important factor. Now starting off with the original Xenoblade Chronicles, that game is on the Wii, it's on the new Nintendo 3DS as Xenoblade Chronicles 3D. Then you have the Wii U Virtual Console download or backwards compatibility. Then you have the definitive edition of the game, which is a remaster on the Nintendo Switch. Now moving on to the next one, we have Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is only on the Wii U. Then you have Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Nintendo Switch, and then you have the paid DLC / expansion / standalone game, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna the Golden Country on the Nintendo Switch. Now there are story elements, and this is very important. There are story elements that follow in the order of things, but I want to make sure that I clarify this because some people are confused about X and 2 and Torna and what order you played in. So this is the order that I would say, as someone who has played all of these games and put so many hundreds of hours into it. You should definitely start off with Xenoblade Chronicles, the base game. Whether you play it on the Wii, the new Nintendo 3DS, the Wii U Virtual Console download, backwards compatibility, the Switch version of the game, that is the game that you should start with. Now, I highly recommend, if you have a Switch, which most of you guys do, play Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I wouldn't go back and play the Wii or the new Nintendo 3DS or the Wii U Virtual Console. I would go with the Switch version of the game. It's going to get you the best graphics, the highest quality, voice acting's good. I mean, everything's pretty solid in that remaster of the game. Plus, there's a lot of quality of life changes that just make doing side quests and tracking things way better. I mean, like, seriously, it is just immensely better than the original games. You're not going to throw your controller in frustration like I did when I originally played the game back on the Wii. So I highly recommend the Switch Definitive Edition of the game. Now moving on to the next one here. Now this is where people get tripped up when it comes to this, because there's this Wii U game that hasn't been ported over to the Nintendo Switch yet, and it's called Xenoblade Chronicles X. I've even had some people ask me, is it called Xenoblade Chronicles 10? Is it like a future type of thing? Now without story spoilers, okay, without story spoilers, I'll say this. You can play Xenoblade Chronicles X really anywhere around these games. It does not matter. So if you want to wait for the potential Nintendo Switch version of the game that I feel is coming, nothing confirmed, but I feel is coming at some point one of these days, you can. Now if you want, you can play Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, then you can get into Xenoblade Chronicles X, but I recommend playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Okay, I recommend playing that and not Torna. Now you can play Torna, but I recommend playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So the order so far is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Nintendo Switch. Now, after you've played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, there's going to be a number of holes in there with the base of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna the Golden Country. So I recommend going to that game afterwards. So far now, we're 3 games in, okay, guys? And we've got Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna the Golden Country. Now, once you've done all of that, story-wise, you're pretty much caught up. Like, you're all caught up. There's not really anything else that you really need to know too much with that. Now, there are some things in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, if you do the extra content, that tie back to X. There is a character named Elma that ties back to that as more like just fan service type of stuff, okay? It's not really going to be something that's really ingrained in the actual story that you need to be hardcore worried about. But I would say if you enjoy Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, if you enjoy 2, if you enjoy Torna, then you can get your hands on a Wii U, or you can wait for X. And that's going to be like the hardest one for people to play because it's on the least popular system. Out of all these systems that we talked about, the Wii, the new Nintendo 3DS, you know, Switch and all that, the Wii U is the least popular and you guys just don't have that system. So I would say you can hold off wait for a Nintendo Switch version, and if it never comes, then maybe one of these days you can play Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U, and it's just going to be there for you to play. So that's the order that I would say that you should play it in. So we're going to recap real quick, just one more time so you guys get it here. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition first, second Xenoblade Chronicles 2, third, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torn of the Golden Country, then Xenoblade Chronicles X if you want to play that then. But remember, that game is a wild card. You can play it anywhere you'll want to play it in this timeline, but I highly recommend going through in the order that I stated there. But Xenoblade Chronicles X is pretty different from the other games, and it's a lot of fun, especially if you love true open world games. Now, next up is which Xenoblade Chronicles game is the best one, and this is something that I get asked quite a bit. What's my favorite? Which one's the best one? I made a video a while back saying that I love all 4 of the Xenoblade Chronicles games, and I really do. It's like picking between your children here, guys. Like, some of you guys don't have children, but if you did, it's like picking between them, man. Like, you don't want to pick one or the other, you know? But let's talk about this because it's very interesting. So I would say this: out of all of the experiences that I've played so far, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torn of the Golden Country is the most polished. It's the shortest, so therefore there's not a lot of room for error there because it's a shorter, smaller base game, and they just polished the heck out of what was in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So out of all these games, Torna is the most polished. It's going to teach you the most. It's going to be the easiest to pick up and play because they have a really good tutorial in there, and they tell you exactly what you need to do and some of the stuff, and it's easier to just kind of play the game, and it's not as expansive as the other games with just side quests being bombarded at you left and right and all this different stuff. So it's just the easiest to pick up and play, but I'm not sure if it's the best one. Okay, mechanically it might be the best one, but when it comes to Xenoblade, you need the content as well. So if I had to order it, okay, if I had to order it, this is the order that I would probably go in, based off of polished, based off of story, based off of ease of play. Everything kind of factors into this, and this is really tough to do. It's really tough to do, but everything kind of factors into it. But I will break down some things that I love more about one of the games over the other. But polish and everything considered, I'd probably say Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is the top game. Then followed by that would be Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torn of the Golden Country, then Xenoblade Chronicles X. But guys, in that order, trust me, like, the difference between them is paper thin, okay? It's paper thin between them. Like, honestly, you have fans out there that will love X more than all the other ones, or Torna more than all the other ones, or Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as the top one. There are so many things that each game does that's like, wow, I think this is the best Xenoblade game. Wow, I think this is the best one. Like, honestly, I go back and play these games, and anytime that I play them, I say, you know what, this might be the best Xenoblade Chronicles game. I mean, and it might be just because the last Xenoblade game that I played was Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition and the Future Connected, so maybe I'm thinking that's the reason. But the difference between them, for me at least, is really thin. And at any point, I can say, you know what, maybe this is the best one. But polish wise and everything just put together, since there is an official remaster where they went back and looked at everything, I would say Xenoblade Chronicles out of the big games, not the expansion with Torn of the Golden Country, that's probably the best one. But like I said, it's so close. Now, if they were to release a Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Nintendo Switch with updates and with other things that they did to Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, that could be the best one, because there's so many cool things in the game. If you're a huge fan of Gundam Wing, or if you're a huge fan of mechs and all of that, then Xenoblade Chronicles X will probably be your favorite one. If you're a fan of just straightforward, kind of the polished type of gameplay without all of the other things that come into these RPGs and side quests to just get bombarded with, then Torn of the Golden Country might be the game that you love the most. And if you're a fan of a bunch of different types of blades and kind of having all these different characters that mash in together and just doing these weird type of combos and having a super in-depth complex battle system, then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 might be your favorite. And it just depends on the stories too. There's so many different things here, but when it comes to which one's the best one, it really is based on what you like as a person, like what you're into the most. Because while they are similar in some respects, there's a lot of differences between these three games, even between Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torn of the Golden Country. There are a number of key differences with them, although they do use the same battle system, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torn of the Golden Country. It's just that Torna is just far more simplified than what we got with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for the smaller experience, which it makes sense that they did that, because that was one of the big complaints with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is like, how do I play this game? There's not a good enough tutorial. What do I do? You know, I mean, I got the hang of it, but it did take me a while. I have combat videos and tutorials up on this channel if you want to see how to play the games. But like I stated at the beginning, with Pyra and Mythra coming into Super Smash Bros., I've seen so many people for the first time kind of say, hey, you know what? I want to get into this franchise. These characters look cool. I would love to know their backstory. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, they come from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and to Torn of the Golden Country. So I know a lot of you guys are probably wanting to rush into that game because, you know, it's like, I want to get into those characters. But if you want to know the order to play it, especially with the story, guys, Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2, they are so integral. Like, if you don't play 1 before 2, you can understand what happens at the end, but it's just so much better if you actually play the first game and know what went down, or at least look it up and kind of see what's going on, or at least read on it beforehand, because then it creates a far bigger impact. But if you play through the game and experience it through there, and there's a casual mode in Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition to where if you don't like grinding and stuff like that, you can definitely get through it a lot easier, because the game is not like a simple cakewalk in terms of the game. Like, you got to level up in that game. So like, if you want to do it that way, you can as well. So I highly recommend playing the first game before the second game, then getting into Torna, and then you can play X whenever. But X is one of those games that it's so weird because a lot of you guys don't have the Wii U, so it's going to be hard for you to play it. But what are your thoughts when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles? Which game should you play first? Are you contemplating playing any of them at all? I would love to hear what you guys have to say on that. And also, what is the best Xenoblade game for those who do love the Xenoblade franchise and have played all of them? No need to argue with each other on this one. We're all Xenoblade fans. For those who are hardcore into it, just say what you like the most and put the reason why. And once again, we are giving away that Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition code on the channel. The giveaway will go down at the end of Tuesday, so make sure you check that out. Link in the description below on the community page to where you can enter into that on our community poll. So what are your thoughts on this? I'd love to hear them in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description below. We've got Twitter. Go and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all the latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.